Letter 26, Circles in the Sand. I am just beginning to enjoy the romance of life out here. I must always have had the romantic temperament, but only since changing my place have I had time and opportunity to give rein to it. On Earth there was always too much to be done, too many duties, too many demands on me. Here I am free. You have no idea of the meaning of freedom unless you can remember when you were out here last, and I doubt if you can remember that yet. When I say romance, I mean the charm of existence, the magic touch which turns the gray face of life to rose color. You know what I mean? It is wonderful to have leisure to dream and to realize one's dream, for here the realization goes with the dream. Everything is so real, imagination is so potent, and the power to link things is so great, so almost unlimited. The dreamers here are really not idle, for our dreaming is a kind of building, and even if it were not, we have a right to do about as we please. We have earned our vacation. The labor will come again. We shall reclothe ourselves in gross matter and take on its burdens. Why, it takes more energy on earth to put one heavy foot before another heavy foot, and to propel the 100 or 200-pound body a mile, than it takes here to go around the world. That will give you an idea of the quantity of surplus energy that we have for enjoying ourselves and for dream building. Perhaps on Earth you work too much, more than is really necessary. The mass of needless things that you accumulate round you, the artificial wants that you create, the breakneck pace of your lives to provide all these things, seem to us absurd and rather pitiful. Your political economy is mere child's play. Your governments are cumbrous machines for doing the unnecessary. Most of your work is useless, and your lives would be nearly futile if you did not suffer so much that your souls learn, though unwillingly, that most of their strivings are vain. How I used to sweat and groan in the early days to make my little circle in the sand. And now I see that if I had taken more time to think, I might have recovered something of my past knowledge, gained in other lives. And, though I still had felt obliged to draw my circle in the sand, I might have done it with less difficulty, and in half the time. Here, if I choose, I can spend hours in watching the changing colors of a cloud. Or, better still, I can lie on my back and remember. It is wonderful to remember. To let the mind go back year after year, life after life, century after century, back and back till one finds oneself a turtle. But one can also look ahead, forward and forward, life after life, century after century, eon after eon, till one finds oneself an archangel. The looking back is memory, the looking forward is creation. Of course, we create our own future. Who else could do it? We are influenced and moved and shifted and helped or retarded by others, but it is we ourselves who forge the chains every time. We tie knots that we shall have to untie, often with labor and perplexity. In going back over my past lives, I realized the why and the wherefore of my last one. It was, in a way, the least satisfactory of many lives, save one. But now I see its purpose, and that I laid the plans for it when I was last out here. I even arranged to go back to Earth at a definite time, in order to be with certain friends who met me there. But I have turned the corner now, and have begun the upward march again. Already I am laying the lines for my next coming, though there is no hurry. Bless you. I am not going back until I have had my fill of the freedom and enjoyment of this existence here. Also, I have much studying to do. I want to review what I learned in those hitherto forgotten, but now remembered lives. Do you recall how, when you went to school, you had occasionally to review the lessons of the preceding weeks or months? That custom is based on a sound principle. I am now having my review lessons. By and by, before I return to the world, I shall review these reviews, fixing by will the memories which I specially wish to carry over with me. It would be practically impossible to carry over intact the great panorama of experience, which now unrolls itself before the eyes of my memory. But there are several fundamental things, philosophical principles and illustrations, which I must not forget. Also, I want to take with me the knowledge of certain formulae and the habit of certain practices, which you would probably call occult, by means of which, when I am mature again in my new body, I can call into memory this very pageant of experience which now rolls before me whenever I will it. No, I am not going to tell you about your own past. You must and can recover it for yourself. So can anyone who knows the difference between memory and imagination? Yes, the difference is subtle, but as real as the difference between yesterday and tomorrow. I do not want you to be in any hurry about coming out here to stay. Remain where you are just as long as possible. Much that we do on this side, you can do almost as well while still in the body. Of course, you have to use more energy, but that is what energy is for, to use. Even when we store it for future use. Do not forget that. One reason why I rest much now and dream and amuse myself is because I want to store as much energy as possible to come back with power. It is well that you have taken my advice to idle a little, and to get acquainted with your own soul. There are surprises in store for the person who will deliberately set out on the quest of his soul. The soul is not a will-o'-the-wisp. It is a beacon light to steer by, and avoid the rocks of materialism and forgetfulness. I have had much joy in going back over my Greek incarnations. What concentration they had, those Greeks! They knew much. The waters of Lethe, for instance. What a conception, brought from this side by masterly memory. If man would even try to remember, if he would only take time to consider all that he has been, there would be more hope of what he may become. Why, do you know that man may become a god? Or that which, compared with ordinary humanity, has all the magnitude and grandeur of a god? Ye are gods was not said in a merely figurative sense. I have met the Master from Galilee, and have held communion with him. There was a man and a god. The world has need of him now. Letter 27. The Magic Ring. It would be hard for you to understand, merely by my telling you, the difference between your life and ours. Begin with the difference in substance. Not only the substance of our bodies, but the substance of natural objects which surround us. Do you start at the term natural objects as applied to the things of this world? You did not fancy, did you, that we had escaped nature? No one escapes nature, not even God. Nature is. Imagine that you had spent 60 or 70 years in a heavy earthly body, a body which insisted on growing fat, and would get stiff-jointed and rheumatic, even going on strike occasionally to the extent of laying you up in bed for repairs of a more or less clumsy sort. Then fancy yourself suddenly exchanging this heavy body for a light and elastic form. Can you imagine it? I confess that it would have been difficult for me, even a year or two ago. Clothed in this form, which is sufficiently radiant to light its own place, when its light is not put out by the cruder light of the sun. Fancy yourself moving from place to place, from person to person, from idea to idea. As time goes on, even the habit of demanding nourishment gradually wears off. We are no longer bothered by hunger and thirst, though I, for instance, still stay myself occasionally with a little nourishment. An infinitesimal amount compared with the beefsteak dinners which I used to eat. And we are no longer harassed by the 1,001 petty duties of the earth. Out here we have more confidence in moods. Engagements are seldom made, that is, binding engagements. As a rule, though, there are exceptions. Desire is mutual. I want to see and commune with a friend at the same time when he feels a desire for my society, and we naturally drift together. The companionships here are very beautiful, but the solitudes are also full of charm. Since the first 2 or 3 months, I have not been lonesome. At first I felt like a fish out of water, of course. Nearly everyone does, though there are exceptions in the case of very spiritual people who have no earthly ties or ambitions. I had so fought the idea of dying that my new state seemed at first to be the proof of my failure, and I used to wander about under the impression that I was going to waste much valuable time, which could have been used to better advantage in the storm and stress of earthly living. Of course the teacher came to me, but he was too wise to carry me on his back even from the first. He reminded me of a few principles, which he left me to apply. And gradually, as I got hold of the applications, I got hold of myself. Then, also gradually, the beauty and wonder of the new condition began to dawn on me. And I saw that, instead of wasting time, I was really gaining tremendous experience, which could be utilized later. I have talked with many people here, people of all stages of intellectual and moral growth, and I am sorry to say that the person who has a clear idea of the significance of life and its possibilities for development is about as rare here as on the earth. As I have said before, a man does not suddenly become all-wise by changing the texture of his body. The vain man of earth is likely to be vain here, though in his next life, the very law of reaction, if he has overdone vanity, may send him back as a modest or even bashful person. For a while at least, until the reaction has spent itself. In coming out, a man brings his character and characteristics with him. I have often been sorry for men who, in life, had been slaves of the business routine. Many of them cannot get away from it for a long time, and instead of enjoying themselves here, they go back and forth to and from the scenes of their old labors, working over and over some problem in tactics or finance until they are almost as weary as when they died. As you know, there are teachers here. Few of them are of the stature of my own teacher, but there are many who make it their pleasure to help the souls of the newly arrived. They never leave a newcomer entirely to his own resources. Help is always offered, though it is not always accepted. In that case it will be offered again and again, for those who give themselves to others do so without hope of reward or even acknowledgement. If I had set out to write a scientific treatise of the life on this side, I should have begun in quite a different way from this. In the first place, I should have postponed the labor about 10 years, until all my facts were pigeonholed and docketed. Then I should have begun at the beginning and dictated a book so dull that you would have fallen asleep over it, and I should have had to nudge you from time to pick up the pencil fallen from your somnolent hand. Instead, I began to write soon after coming out, and these letters are really the letters of a traveler in a strange country. They record his impressions, often his mistakes, sometimes perhaps his provincial prejudices, but at least they are not a rehash of what somebody else has said. I like your keeping my photograph on your mantle as you do. It helps me to come. There is a great power in a photograph. I have been drawing pictures for you lately on the canvas of dreams, to show you the futility and vanity of certain things. Did you not know that we could do that? The power of the so-called dead to influence the living is immense, provided that the tie of sympathy has been made. I have taught you how to protect yourself against influences which you do not want, so do not be afraid. I will always stand guard to the extent of warning you if there is any danger of attack from this side. Already I have drawn a magic ring around you, which only the most advanced and powerful spirits could pass, even if they desired. That is, the teachers and I drew it together. You are doing our work just now, and have a right to our protection. That the laborer is worthy of his hire is an axiom of both worlds. Only you yourself could now let down the bars for the inrush of evil and irresponsible spiritual intelligences. And if you should inadvertently let down the bars, we should rush to put them up again. We have some authority out here. Yes, even so soon I can say that. Are you surprised?